What's up, guys? So I wanted to make a video about the yearly recap as well. Most of the CCs made videos about it, and mine probably looks a bit different than most, and it will also be a good opportunity for me to explain some things and decisions that I made on my account, and it will just be interesting, quick little discussion, so let's do it. And I will probably pause a lot on this video and watch a bit, and then I will explain those things.
The path of a summoner is one of difficult choices. Gallic was your first. And this was your journey.
Okay, so first of all, as you can see, I started playing this game basically when it was released, and I definitely didn't pick Gallic because he is better than Gale, but simply there wasn't a lot of guides and things weren't well known back in those days, and I just picked Gallic because he looked the coolest. And I actually didn't even make him 6-star at all. So I played this game for a few weeks, and then I made 3 extra accounts, and I played all of them for a few weeks, and then I picked the one that happened to get the best champions. And the account that I'm playing is not actually the first account I made, but I picked this one because it got Shini. And back in those days, Shini was incredible champion for clearing dungeons and even clan boss and just every single content in the game, because she had heals and AoE A1 and so on. Back in those days, there wasn't 6-star gear. We got much less energy than you do nowadays. A lot of the top tier sets weren't in the game, and of course most of the champions as well. Even one thing that is actually very interesting that most people probably don't even know or remember nowadays, but Minotaur used to drop half of the scrolls that it does nowadays. And back in the early days of Raid, Minotaur used to be very hard, and most people weren't farming Minotaur 15. Even for me, when I got first masteries on Shini, which was the first champion that I got masteries on, I was farming Minotaur 13, and we got several times less energy than you do nowadays, and it dropped half of the scrolls, and I wasn't farming the latest stage, so it literally took me 4 months to get masteries on Shini. And that's how it used to be back in the day. And if you wanted to farm masteries on a champion, you basically couldn't do anything else in the game for months. Nowadays, you can of course get full masteries on 2 different champions every week, just with free-to-play energy, but it didn't used to be like this. So that's why you used to avoid getting masteries on champions, and you only got them for the few ones that you really wanted to get them on. And that's why even nowadays most of my champions don't have masteries. I basically have PTSD from the old Minotaur, and I try to avoid it as much as possible. I only get them for arena champions and clan boss champions and Hydra champions, but most of my faction wars and other filler champions, they don't have masteries. And in general, I also try to avoid making 6 stars, and I only make as few of them as possible, just to save energy. Nowadays, it's not as big deal as it used to be, and you don't really have to do it, but back in those days, if you wanted to farm dungeons, you had to be very cheap with your resources, and you didn't want to waste them on unnecessary stuff. So that's why even nowadays I'm kind of very strict about where I spend my energy on. And yeah, this was super long explanation, but let's go on with the video. So here's a funny thing. I actually thought that Mashaled was the first champion, first legendary champion I got in the game. Maybe it was the second one, I don't remember. But this Errol, I didn't even 6-star him until like many years after I got him. But I basically played the game for around 6 months. And then I quit the game for another 6 months. And I came back after Mashaled was buffed, which was incredible. And I finally had a top tier champion in the game. And basically I used Mashaled for everything in those days.
You are a legendary son.
And like in the start of the game, you got so much less shards than you did, like than you do nowadays, that people didn't really have legendary champions. Like you basically had like 0 to like couple. You didn't have like hundreds or dozens of legendaries as people do nowadays. So getting a crappy legendary hurt a lot, and of course most of them were crappy. So
Summoner.
and yeah, I'm not sure if this number is average or more than most of the CCs. Like in my clan, of course, it's probably the least amount in the entire clan, I assume. But I have played the game for a long time. I haven't really bought a lot of shards. Like, of course, I have bought a few shard packs, but not many. And I don't normally buy any shards, so this is mostly just the shards that I got from like Doom Tower and Clan Boss. And it is a lot of champions. Like, I have played the game for a long time, so it kind of depends what you compare to, but it's still a decent amount of legendaries in the end.
You use these champions the most.
And yeah, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Basically, it's my 3 most used nukers, and Necret, which is like one of my main champions that I use on everything else. And of course, if you don't have insane roster, if you get a good champion, you will use it in many different types of content, and you want to get most bang for your buck and use the champion with best gear for many different things. And that's what I have done and what most people should do as well. And I'm not really sure why it shows Tranda here. This is definitely not from the last 90 days, as it says on this video, because I haven't used Tranda since the blessings were released. Before blessings, she was my main nuker for maybe like 1.5 years or something, but I haven't used her in the last 3 months, only very recently because of the spider. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, and this shouldn't surprise either. I actually only got my first Duchess after last summer, but after I got her, I of course use her like basically in almost every arena fight and Hydra and everything else as well. Duchess is one of those champions that if you get one, you will probably use her in everything, unless you're like super endgame. Not even endgame, but unless you have like lots of insane champions, because I was super endgame and I didn't even have her until 6 months ago, but now I actually have 2 because I pulled my second one a week ago, and that was incredible for my account. Having 2 Duchesses is very big deal, like you definitely want to get more than one of her. And I also made a video about Duchesses that was specifically about 3 different builds that are used in Platinum Arena. So if you're interested of that, you should watch that video as well.
Dungeons.
Again, this probably shouldn't be a surprise, Maybe it can be for some of you actually, but I was farming dragon in the early game, like everybody else was back then. And when I was endgame enough, and when Forge was released and we got Perception, I basically stopped farming dragon, and I never went back to it. Of course, some other people still farm it, if they are very fast and they're trying to compete in speed. But if you do that, you could even just buy speed sets. Like, basically there is no reason to farm dragon. The only important thing on it nowadays is speed set, and it's not as necessary as many people think. I have never really used speed in arena, so even my arbiter is built in stone skin. So, and even back in the day, I used to use Swift Parry arbiter. I used to use her in defense every week. So, and after Lethal set was released and we got the Dark Fade rotation, which was almost 2 years ago, basically after that I never farmed Fire Knight either. I went to Spider, and I have only been farming it for almost 2 years in a row. And you can definitely still farm Fire Knight, and many people do. It kind of depends on your account and your preferences and so on. But for me, I'm definitely planning to just keep farming Spider till probably the end of the time, until something changes. Or I might take a little break and try get like speed boosts on stun set with speed Ascension. I might try to go for that at some point, but in general I'm probably still gonna stick with Spider. And Spider isn't really something that you should farm in like early or mid game, but when you have enough perception gear or other gear to clear PvE content, and you're only focusing on arena, and you're able to clear Doom Tower, you probably only want to farm Spider, if you're like trying to be efficient with your account. But of course it depends. And since I have been farming it for 2 years, actually let me show you some of the gear. I have some insane accessories on my account. Of course it depends on your account, but if you farm it for a long time, you're bound to get like some triples and so on. Actually, on Rotos I even have a quad. For him, HP main stat on ring is better than attack. It gives you more damage. And this is basically a perfect Rotos ring as a quad. And let's actually look. I'm pretty sure for like most factions I probably got like at least one or a few triple speed pieces. I'm pretty sure I have one undead as well. Yeah, over time it can be very good to get like triple speed banners and have a decent accessory and to have decent accuracy banners and so on. It's very useful to have a decent amount of Spider gear. Of course, nowadays reaction, revenge and refresh are in many situations better than normal accessories, even with worse stats, but also for some stuff like Nuka rings or speed banners, you will always want to farm Spider. Actually, even on Daros, I think I have 3 different triple attack rings. Let me show you. Yeah, I have 3 different ones. And yeah, if you farm it for a long time, you're bound to get something good. Of course, it might not be for the build and the champion you want, but at this point, after 30k runs, I have lots of triples. Like, I'm pretty sure on every faction I have at least one triple speed banner and so on. But yeah, let's move on.
And claimed many treasures. You are an arena legend.
So about this, I would say that don't focus too much on your win rate. it's kind of the same thing as player power. It doesn't make any difference. For me, on my account, I like to do a lot of testing in offense, and I do auto battles with different defense teams that I'm trying, and I don't care if I win or lose. Like, I have maxed my Great Hall long time ago, and there's no reason for me to like get any medals, so I don't care about the win rate, and I lose fights on purpose all the time.
You have crushed the Demon Lord.
And yeah, I guess the recap this year doesn't show how many times you have finished Plat and your highest ranking. Last time it did, and I was kind of hoping it would. I'm not sure the exact number of times that I have finished Plat, but it's probably around 100, and probably more than, like, only very few people have more than me, because most people haven't been actively pushing Plat as long as I have. And as far as rankings go, I have finished top 2 twice and top 3 twice as well. Those are my best finishes on my account. And last year it was showing this. I don't know why they aren't showing it this year. I kind of wanted to show it, and I want to see how many times I have finished Plat. And yeah, for clan boss, I mean, this might not come as a surprise, but I don't follow clan boss stuff. I do the important PV things, but clan boss, I have used the same team, I don't even know, maybe like more than a year. Like, I will probably never change my clan boss team, so this is one key auto and it's good enough for me. I don't know a lot about the speed tunes, and I don't follow the content. I mean, I think it's very good that there is people like Deadwood Jedi who make a lot of content about it, and it helps a lot of the players, including me. But it's not my style of content, so I don't focus on it. And I don't really know much about it, to be honest.
And you have slain. Path.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it for the video. For Hydra, I kind of wasn't able to kill the boss on like the hardest difficulty for the best key until after it was nerfed. And nowadays I can... Oh fuck, I can't show it. Nowadays I can auto the keys, like Nightmare sometimes takes many tries, but I basically auto all of the keys, so sometimes if I'm running out of the time I will manual it, but for example this week I got it on first try with auto, so nowadays it's kind of okay for me, but Hydra can be very hard unless you have some of the few very specific champions that you need for it, like Duchess or Krisk and Tuhanarak and so on. And I still kind of wish they would like nerf Hydra or make the mechanics so that you have more different options and ways to kill the boss, but I'm sure at this point they are probably never gonna rework it, so it is what it is. And yeah, that's about it for this video. This probably turned out to be much longer than it was supposed to be, and I was probably like rambling a bit, but I was kind of giving my perspective on things and explaining this stuff. And yeah, I hope you found it interesting. Probably not, but that's it for this video, and thanks a lot for watching.